I can still remember that hot summer day when I was walking along a path towards the top viewing platform in Colorado. We had to stop our car halfway and walk all by ourselves. I was sweating hard, and I could hardly open my eyes due to the bright sunshine, so I complained a lot. However, when I occasionally looked up, I saw some large cracks of the canyon, which seemed like the scars of the planet. At that moment, I somehow felt a mysterious power of the nature that encouraged me to walk all the way to the platform. After reaching the platform, I get a better view at the canyon, and I noticed that at the bottom of the cracks, there is an infinitely long river like a wild python crawling at the edge of the world. The rocky cliffs were mostly dark red, with a mixture of all kinds of colors, like red, purple, green, and yellow. I was amazed by this scenario that I had never seen before, and my mother told me that it's a typical kind of danxia landform. So with my curiosity, I Googled for the canyon's formation. Then I completely immersed myself in my imagination. In my imagination, hundreds of billions of years ago, I was a grain of sand at the bottom of the sea. Like many other gravels here, I was carried by ocean currents and landed on this plate. This plate was called the American plate, and I was at its junction with the Pacific plate. The geological movements here were very frequent, and I can always feel the pulsation that came from deep inside the earth. One day, the earth beneath me started vibrating, and I was following it, going up and up. Then I emerged from the water, but all I saw was a vast flat land. Then cracks began to appear on the flat land, and as a grain of sand right in the crack area, I felt that the surrounding rocks were torn apart and went away from me, and I was left at the bottom of that huge crack. Then I feel that I was floating. It turned out that the meltwater from the nearby Rocky Mountains flowed into the cracks. The water came from all directions without restraint, so gradually they opened more ravines on this ground. Then I sank. This time I was not taken away, so for a long time after this, I lay quietly at the bottom of the canyon, watching it getting wider and wider. Long-term rain and wind eroded the rock wall, and the rock particles above fell off. Some of them became my companions, and some were carried downstream with the current. Tens of millions of years later, I was still that grain of sand at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, when at this time the ancestors of the Indians had already come to North America from Eurasia through the Bering Strait. They lived and multiplied here, so gradually they formed their own tribes, and they developed their own civilizations, such as the Mayan, the Inca, and the Aztec. Thousands of years later, the age of human geographic discovery had arrived. The fleets sent by the Europeans went to every corner of the world. So, not surprisingly, they also came to the land where I was. They established new institutions here, and they gradually formed an extremely powerful nation. Meanwhile, human wisdom was still continuously boosting the development of science and technology. Therefore, on this land, people had searched for the ways to leave the earth and explore the universe. Suddenly awoke from the fantasy, I realized that the sun had already set. Above my head, the sky was like an immense black velvet, inserted by billions of shining diamonds. I felt that I was rising up, becoming closer and closer to this enormous curtain. Then I went past it into the outer space. In front of me, there were strings of stars glittering and slowly flowing. I had become the voyager. So I continued traveling forward past Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and when I finally went through the Kuiper Belt and flew out of the solar system, I felt a power behind, so I looked back. The Earth was now a tiny blue dot embraced by hundreds of billions of other stars in my vision, so I took this image down. Then I heard someone calling my name, so it is time to go back. On the way back to the hotel, I was still roaming in my thoughts. When that three questions, who am I, where I was from, and where I will end up in, first appeared in a primitive man's mind, it was the time that humans started their obsession with the nature. They began by measuring the land beneath their feet, then turned to the space above their head. Countless scientists were so fascinated by the beauty of the nature that they devoted their whole life. Humans have come all the way from the past with their pursuit for the nature, and our future will still be like that. Maybe nobody has ever wondered who was the first to look at the night sky. But what we know is the night sky is the future waiting for us to explore right there.